Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Handford, and my wife, Dennae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur.
On the podcast with us today is Ivan Barratt. Ivan, welcome to the podcast.
Dan, it is so awesome to be here, man. I've been looking forward to this. It's been on my calendar for a little while now, and I'm just happy we're finally here, man.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to the interview as well. I want you to get us started and talk to the listeners about you and your background and where you are in this entrepreneur space.
Yeah, so I'm in the real estate space. I own a fully integrated private equity, asset management, property management, real estate firm. We're 80 employees now, and 20 here at the corporate office, and then the rest are on site at various apartment projects, managing, including what I own and what I manage for other people as a fee manager. We're around 300 million in assets under management. And, you know, I started off in my spare bedroom as a one-man show in 2010 and grew this thing to what it is today. And, gosh, you know, it's been a wild roller coaster of a ride. I'll definitely start off with that.
Well, that makes for an interesting episode and an interesting interview because obviously the show's all about tough decisions. And so I'm sure you've had some of those tough decisions along the way.
Yeah, definitely. Some I've made myself and some have been thrust upon me. And I've certainly made my fair share of mistakes. Try not to make the same ones twice, but definitely have had to make a lot of tough decisions over the years.
I want you to get us started on the first one that I like to call the sore thumb tough decision. So this is the one that when you start to talk about tough decisions, it comes to your mind right away. And you're like, that's the one that, you know, did not have that good of an outcome, but I learned a lot of lessons through it. So you were glad you went through it to learn those lessons. So I want you to dive in and kind of tell us the story about that as well as some of the lessons you learned.
Sure. Yeah. About 5 years ago, you know, I was growing to the next stage of the company, and, you know, I was still involved in most of the daily decisions. And I knew at that time that I needed an operating partner. I needed to upgrade my management team. And I really screwed it up the first time out, ended up in a bad partnership, and, you know, was lucky enough to be able to unwind it a few months later, but really lots of sleepless nights, stress, and headaches to get through that. And ultimately did make some good decisions or learn some good lessons along the way. But I'm happy to expand on that as much as you've got time to hear me whine.
Yeah, please do. This is something that a lot of people, you know, have tough decisions around and struggle with. And, you know, some of the lessons that you learned through would be very helpful.
The biggest things I really screwed up were I made some decisions out of haste and fear. And so I knew I needed a partnership, and I thought I knew the guy. I was going to hire him from a big company. He was managing a few thousand units for a well-established management company. And we had known each other for a couple of years and had drinks or a meal every now and then. And so, you know, I thought, hey, I should hire him and let him run this thing. And, you know, because he said he was interested, that was basically all I needed to hear. I thought, heck, you know, if he's managing 1,000 units for this other company, then he must know what he's doing. Turned out to not be the case. And even little things like he asked me to keep it to myself because he didn't want word to get out that he was thinking of leaving the company. And Indianapolis is I would say the world's biggest small town. It's a city now, but a lot of people know each other, especially in real estate. And I sort of just checked that box instead of asking around, which if I had done so at the time would have probably presented some red flags. He drug his feet forever to start day one and really hemmed and hawed about it and had to ask everybody under the sun, you know, for advice. And so he delayed the process. And then, gosh, once he finally made the leap and got involved, it became very apparent quickly that he really wasn't the leader that he held himself out to be. He had no entrepreneurial bone in his body, and he was in what I would call a silo within a big corporate machine, if you will, and really had no idea how to help grow a company. And gosh, you know, luckily he saw it early as well, and we both agreed that it was just the wrong move. Because of that occurrence and what I went through, I really lost almost a full year of progress, because I had to first wind up this and then unwind it. And, very lucky though that, it could have been worse, but he wanted out and I wanted him out. And it's funny, in that process, it actually led me to my partner who I have today, who I will be celebrating our 5-year anniversary in June, who actually ended up being has been a phenomenal partner and a true partner in this space, and really has enabled us to basically to create more value together than we could separately.
So when you were going through that initial phase of interviewing him, and really it wasn't an interview, but it was more kind of like getting to know him, what are some things that maybe, I know you mentioned earlier on, like maybe talking to a few people about it ahead of time or whatever, but what are some things like maybe you do now to mitigate the risk of having that same situation happen in the future, whether it be with a future partner or just even a future employee?
Yeah. So when we're looking at people now, we're much more keen on, is this the right person, and do we have a seat on the bus, and can they be in the right seat? And then also, simple things like, can they do the work? Are they capable of growth? And do they really want it? Right. And we're also running some personality tests to see if what they're saying actually matches up with what predictive index is the one we like, that does that profile match up with what they say? And then, now versus 5 years ago, I'm in a couple of entrepreneurial forums through EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. I've got a business coach, and I've put some really good mentors around me. And I lean on all those folks in different ways and at different times very heavily. And I really just came to the realization that, hey, I'm really good at certain things, but hiring people is not often something I'm great at, because I tend to hire people I like instead of hiring people that aren't like me, that can do a job that I'm not necessarily best suited for or even should be doing. And so that's really been the sea change at BAM, is much more focused on culture, personality, and a more holistic due diligence phase when it comes to seeing if somebody meets our test of what it means to be part of this company.
So let's shift here a little bit and talk about a different tough decision that you had to make that had a really good and positive outcome in some of those lessons.
I'd still go back to my favorite decision of all, which was the partner I do have now, my COO and president of BAM, Ivan Barratt. Just a coincidence that it rhymes with Barrett. But it came about in a much different way, Dan. He was a multifamily broker before he came to work with me, and he was on a two-person team at that time where he was also the brains. So, Adam is about 10 times smarter than me. He's not quite as good looking as I am. I was hoping that would get a laugh. Otherwise, I'd have to get some new material for your show. No, he and I are almost opposite in how we look at the world, and we're very much yin and yang. And so him coming on board, he came on for sweat equity. He didn't come on asking for a paycheck. He didn't come on asking for equity in the property management operating company. We just started off partnering on some deals together, and so we were able to test our relationship. And over time, it was very obvious that he was a much better operator than I am. And so over the course of a few years, we've now grown to the point where he's got equity in the operating company as well as our apartment assets. And we're at the point now where I'm almost not really allowed to talk to the employees. They report to him. He's at the top of the org chart, and I'm more out to the side, managing big relationships and raising capital and focused on our vision, while he is making sure the trains run on time. And I can't repeat this enough. Together, the value we create is greater than the sum of our parts.
How did you know, and at what point did you know that he was going to be the right fit for you long term?
Probably about a year into the partnership, he had really come a long way and taken over the day-to-day property management of or asset management of the company of the assets, and just really showed a keen understanding of what it took to mind all those details. And I had been through so much brain damage, and I had, when I started this thing, I was the leasing agent, the property manager, the collector, the accountant, investor relations. I was everything. And so when I started relinquishing some of those tasks to other people, namely him and some of the leaders that we were able to recruit, it became even more evident that these other folks were much better at this than I was. And so, this light bulb went off that let's see how much Adam can handle, right? Let's give him more, and see where his bandwidth runs out. And frankly, Dan, it hasn't yet.
I want you to share with us right now a few strategies that you use when you're facing a tough decision like these.
So nowadays, back to a little bit about what I said before, but now I'm in 2 entrepreneurial forums through Entrepreneurs Organization. That's been a transformational ecosystem for me to be a part of. So I have 2 groups that I can confidentially share issues with and get really great feedback and wisdom from others that have been there and done that. Some in the same industry I'm in, but just as many that are in different industries that I can still gather a lot of wisdom from, because at the end of the day, we all own these larger operating companies that face a lot of the same challenges. And then I combine that with some other masterminds I'm in the real estate industry, as well as I've got a really great business coach. And I'm always on the lookout for mentors that I can have in my life that have been there and done that as well. So for instance, I've got a gentleman that I can't wait to meet with next week. I only get to meet with him maybe 3, tops 4 times a year, but he owns over 20,000 units and started a company from a small shop to what it is today, and is willing to share some of his wisdom with me.
Well, we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Ivan about the Trifecta, which is a series of quick questions and answers that we have ready for him.
Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com.
All right, we are back with Ivan Barratt. And Ivan, I want you to get us started with this series of quick questions and answers that we call the Trifecta, and talk to us about your favorite technology that you use in business that helps make your life easier every day.
I'm big on the cloud, and we use Slack, and really having everything in the cloud and Slack in the G Suite of technology, combining that with some premium virtual assistants really makes my life easier to run from a business standpoint and personal.
And what's the favorite quote that you've heard that has helped you as an entrepreneur?
Oh gosh, I got a lot of them, but lately the one that keeps rolling around in my head is Bruce Lee. Don't pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to handle a difficult one.
I like that. What's the favorite book that has helped you make better decisions as an entrepreneur?
Actually, I've gone back to Good to Great for the 3rd time in conjunction with rolling out Traction in our company. And that has really helped propel our team as a whole to make better decisions and stay aligned as we grow to the next phase here at BAM.
Well, that's great. I actually have both of those books, and I love both of them. What's the next thing for you right now on your vision or dream board?
Well, I've got a Spartan Ultra race coming up in September in Tahoe. That'll be by far the toughest physical challenge and mental that I've had in my life up to this date. We're rolling out a $50 million equity fund for our next leg of acquisitions. We'll be using a fund format, continuing to grow and expand our leadership team and growing leaders underneath our leaders. On the dream board is next stop, $1 billion in assets under management. Getting ready to publish book number 1 this year. And my wife and I are working on living abroad with our 3 children next summer for a month or 2.
Oh, that's pretty exciting. Well, tell the listeners how they can get a hold of you and reach you, and if they want to touch base with you with a few more additional questions, or maybe even join you on this fund that you're creating.
Thank you, Dan. It's pretty easy to find me if you spell my last name Barratt. You can Google me pretty easily. And my scheduler responds at 317-762-2625, 317-762-2625, ivanbarratt.com, Ivan Barratt Education for high net worth investors looking to learn more, and then our corporate site, barrettassetmanagement.com.
And we'll make sure to provide those links inside of the show notes as well for those of you who are listening. And Ivan, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Looking forward to continuing to follow you as you continue to grow as an entrepreneur, and looking forward to having you on a future episode.
Really, really grateful to be here, Dan, and share a few minutes with you. I love listening to your content, and I'm just happy to be a part of it, and I hope I delivered some value today.
Yes, absolutely. I enjoyed it, and I know our listeners will as well.
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email, where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.